It's back to the future for DJI's action camera line, as the latest flagship brings back the Osmo name and the more traditional action camera styling, yet blends in some of the features introduced with the modular Action 2, and the result is this, the DJI OSMO Action 3. DJI's first stab at the action camera market came with the OSMO Action, and what a stab it was! A fantastic all-rounder that really gave the competition something to worry about. Then came the Action 2 with its modular and compact form and newly designed magnetic mounting system, although it had its limitations, specifically heat management. The OSMO Action 3 isn't a successor to the Action 2, it's more an addition to the lineup that sits as an option beside the Action 2, yet brings along the added benefits of a full-fledged action cam form factor with various small improvements, of course. So, in essence, what we have here is a camera that marries the guts of the Action 2 with the styling of the original OSMO Action. On first glance, the body is the typical tried and tested action camera matchbox style shape that's waterproof to 16 meters in its default form. Dominating the front is the main lens, behind which we have a 1/1.7 inch f2.8 12 megapixel sensor, working in tandem to produce video resolutions up to 4K 120 frames per second at 130 megabits per second, with a nice large 155-degree field of view. We'll come back to that shortly. Although the entire camera is slightly larger, the lens cover is a lot thinner than the original OSMO Action. And yes, it is removable. It even comes with a rubber ring that can be used to grip and remove the lens cover, better than using a rubber band as we did with the original, although do be careful to remove and store the rubber grip away when using the actual camera though, otherwise it'll be easily lost. Anyways, next to the lens we have the front-facing 1.4 inch screen, which is now touch sensitive, another first for action cameras of this style, while we have two microphones beside the logo just below the lens, providing stereo audio capture. On closer inspection, notice the O in the branding here. That's actually a color temperature sensor and exposure meter built right into the logo, a nice little added touch. Moving on, alongside a small speaker, we have the standard shutter button up top, complete with its really nice tactile click when pressed, while on one side we have a sliding door that can be opened to reveal a micro SD memory card slot, with cards up to 256GB being supported, along with a cavity for the removable 1770mAh battery, which can provide up to a manufacturer stated 160 minutes, although that's at 1080p 30 with stabilization and even the screens switched off. Saying that, the pack is similar to GoPro's Enduro battery, whereby it can be used in extremely cold environments too. On the opposite side, another door covering a single USB-C port used for data transfer with your computer or for charging the battery, although note DJI do supply a combo package this time round with not only additional battery packs, but also a nifty charger that can charge all three batteries, or also act as a power bank for your other devices too. Just above is a quick access button used to quickly switch between presets when access to the touch screens isn't possible. On the rear, the standard 2.25 inch touchscreen display, perfect for framing shots and changing settings, while at the base is a magnetic mounting connector similar to what we've seen with the DJI Action 2, yet it feels more robust and secure this time round and even somehow manages to hide a third microphone somewhere underneath. The mounts themselves are plastic with metal catches at either end, but once connected they feel seriously solid, more so than they did with the Action 2, making for a really nice solution when quickly moving the camera between mounts. I liked the system with the Action 2, and it's even better here. Note, while the camera is built for landscape shooting in its default form, in the box you'll also find a plastic protective frame which opens at one end and wraps around the camera. Not only does this still provide access to all features and the bottom mounting point, it now also provides an additional mounting point on one end for capturing video in portrait orientation, which is perfect for some social media channels. On the downside, it does cover access to the battery door though, so you'll have to remove the entire camera from the frame in order to swap out any batteries. A small inconvenience for the portrait shooters out there. Generally speaking though, DJI has done a great job of making the OSMO Action 3 feel robust, although the lens frame does protrude slightly around the edges of the camera, which could catch in the heat of the action, making it a potential weak point versus the GoPro Hero line, whose lenses are flush with the top and sides of the camera. Nevertheless, with the camera powered up and skipping through the initial setup steps, and yes, it still includes that incredibly annoying activation process with the app. Seriously, I just want to get going at this point rather than provide all my details to use the camera I've just purchased, although it does provide the opportunity to apply the latest firmware update too, after which you're finally set to go. The Osmo Action 3 brings back the same interface we got in the Action 2. It was smooth and stable then, and it's smooth and stable now. Large finger-friendly icons make interaction intuitive, and there's a simple enough menu system too that makes it very intuitive and easy to pick up without having to refer to lengthy manuals. The menu system works in the same way as the Action 2 as well, mainly by using swiping gestures. You swipe up to change primary settings like resolution and frame rates, down to access the camera's main menu system, and left or right to change the shooting mode. Remember, we have that quick switch button on the side too, useful for cycling between different shooting options. Note that it doesn't cycle between all of them though, just the ones you've set up, so you'll want to dial in your different shooting settings beforehand. Up to 5 profiles being available, but still certainly a very nice little feature. DJI's inclusion of a front touchscreen on the Action 3 can't be overlooked though. Historically, front displays on action cameras were only used for framing up shots, but this time round you can control all the camera's features. The menus work in the same way on both the front and rear displays, so the same swiping gestures work here too. Just like the rear screen, the front is covered with Gorilla Glass for impact resistance, although while a little cramped at 1.4 inches, it's very useful in certain scenarios, when vlogging for instance, without having to turn the whole camera around. For everything else though, the 2.25-inch main screen is much more spacious. With both screens sporting a pixel density of 326 ppi, they're plenty sharp, and they also get nice and bright, more so than the original Osmo Action, making for easy outdoor viewing. Of course, we do have remote control via the DJI Mimo app too. Just like GoPro Quick, DJI's app offers big screen control over modes, which is handy, as well as a live preview of whatever you're shooting. I did find DJI Mimo to be more reliable than GoPro Quick though. It doesn't try to do quite as much, but in the process delivers a more stable connection with lower latency. When it comes to actual real-world performance though, well, if you've used the Action 2 you'll know what to expect from the Osmo Action 3, at least in theory anyway. In practice, while you can shoot really nice footage from the Action 3 at up to 4K resolution, and that's at a 130 megabits per second data rate too, look closer and you'll find a slightly softer focus than competing cameras, even the Action 2 with the same internals. Something DJI is working to resolve at the time of producing this video, although I can't see this being a software fix. Saying that, on the face of it, most are likely to be impressed with the results, especially from video captured in brightly lit environments. We keep all of our stabilization options too, and DJI's Rocksteady continues to do a fantastic job in this regard, easily on par with GoPro's Hypersmooth and performing exceptionally well. As with the Action 2, we also have Horizon Steady, which keeps a level horizon even with a full 360-degree rotation, only up to 2.7K at 60 mind, and at the cost of cropping into the image somewhat of course, and we have Horizon Balancing too, which corrects the tilt horizontally within 45 degrees either way, and allows for steady recording up to 4K at 60. The Action 3 also offers a nice wide 155 degree field of view, equivalent to a 12.5mm full frame lens, considerably wider than the competition. We have all the standard ultra-wide, wide and linear modes available too of course, albeit with some distortion when de-warping the frame mind, and the zoom function is digital only and looks pretty poor. So as with other cameras, you'd be better off zooming in using your video editing app instead. Saying that, by getting more in frame with its wider 155 degree field of view, DJI also makes it harder to expose the image for all the elements in frame. The new color temperature sensor that automatically adjusts white balance and exposure in a single shot if you're moving from shadows to bright sunlight or diving into water usually helps provide relatively smooth transitions from shaded to sunlit areas, although it can be a tad slow. GoPro certainly does a better job in this regard. Saying that, DJI is playing up the vertical aspect ratio with the Action 3, with not just the vertical mount and the vertical user interface, but with the portrait shooting capability too. The feature allows for 9:16 shooting, so you can post social media content at all the available resolutions with no need for any cropping. all working wonderfully well. The additional shooting modes on the Osmo Action 3 are exactly what you'd expect from an action camera. Slow motion, time-lapse, burst mode, they're all still here and work just as you'd expect, producing enjoyably expansive content, though with limited dynamic range and detail versus some of the competition. Oh, and you'll be pleased to note throughout testing I've had no overheating at all. That's not saying it wouldn't overheat in hotter climates and when stationary, but certainly nowhere near the extent of the Modular Action 2. As we would expect from any action camera, when it comes to low light, it's not that great, at least not in regular mode. Typical with action cameras containing such small sensors, it's really best to focus your action-related activities on days with good light. Footage will still have some detail, but with plenty of grain and artifacting as we'd expect. Nothing really groundbreakingly new here. If low light shooting is your thing, then the Insta360 ONE RS with its 1-inch sensor will produce much better results. As for audio quality, the DJI OSMO Action 3 captures clean sound from its 3 microphones, tuning out background and wind noise relatively well. It's probably up there with some of the best audio capture you're likely to achieve with a small action camera. Saying that, if you have the excellent wireless DJI mic, you can easily upgrade your audio quality by simply plugging the receiver straight into the side of the Osmo Action 3, or use another external mic via a USB to 3.5mm adapter. All in all, this is a really nice action camera in a really nice overall package. DJI wisely returned to an action camera form while addressing the overheating and other complaints of users who purchased the Action 2. At the same time, they also introduced features that trump the GoPro, like the magnetic clip mount, which is excellent, the long-lasting fast-charging battery, and even a forward-facing screen that's now touch-sensitive too. Saying that though, it still doesn't beat GoPro where it really counts: the footage. Stabilization performs exceptionally well and it's easily comparable, but GoPro generally delivers sharper video with better dynamic range and low light powers, resulting in smoother scene transitions, and it has the higher resolution options too. Another alternative is the Insta360 ONE RS, which performs exceptionally well, especially with that 1-inch lens mod, and also has the option of 360 shooting if you like to dabble on that side of the spectrum too. Saying that, the Osmo Action 3 looks like a good option for many users, particularly with its lower base price, as long as you can see past that softer focus though. The feature list is still not quite as rich as the GoPro, but in some areas it does outperform its competitor, in particular with its water resistance, temperature resistance, and image sensor size. So while it may not topple the GoPro, it certainly brings the battle to GoPro's door, although it would have fared much better with a properly calibrated focus system.